Chapter 26. The Dutchman's Blessing. On the first anniversary of her arrival, Sarah made the trek to the Whispering Canyons alone. She didn't bring gear or sensors. She brought only her guitar and a sense of gratitude. She reached the spring at sunset. The water was clear and cold, a gift from the mountain that Mel and Jacob had fought to protect. She sat by the grassy mound where the Dutchman's door was buried, the red rock glowing with an inner fire. She played the song she had written with Alice. As the notes echoed through the canyons, the mountain seemed to respond. The wind picked up, harmonizing with the strings, and for a moment, the veil between worlds felt thin. Sarah saw them then not as ghosts, but as a presence in the light, a man with broad shoulders and a steady gaze, and a woman with a yellow apron and eyes like the Arizona sky. They weren't guarding a mine, they were guarding a legacy. She felt a hand on her shoulder, a weightless, warm sensation that brought a deep, abiding peace to her soul. It was the Dutchman's blessing, but it wasn't the blessing of wealth. It was the blessing of a life well lived, of a heart that had found its home. Maya watched from the porch of the diner as Sarah returned, her silhouette framed by the rising moon. The neon sign buzzed, its steady pulse a beacon in the vast, dark desert. The gilded dust was no longer just a memory, it was the foundation of a new horizon. And at their feet, the diner remained a sanctuary of coffee, kindness, and the enduring power of a story that would never, ever end. Chapter 27. The Gilded Cage. The global success of Echoes of the Gilded Dust brought a new kind of storm to the Arizona desert. Within weeks, sleek black sedans began to replace the dusty SUVs in the diner's gravel lot. These were the new vultures, men and women in tailored linen suits, clutching tablets instead of treasure maps, their eyes gleaming with a familiar, predatory hunger. They were the titans of the music industry, and they arrived with promises of world tours, stadium lights, and digital immortality. They sat in the worn vinyl booths, looking out of place among the truckers and hikers, pushing contracts across the Formica tables like they were gambling chips. "You're a viral phenomenon, Sarah," a high-powered executive named Marcus said, leaning in so close his expensive cologne overwhelmed the smell of the grill. "We can put you on every screen on the planet. You'll be the voice of a generation. But you have to leave this. This diner, this town. It's too small for what you're going to become." Sarah looked at Maya, who was standing behind the counter, silently polishing a glass. Maya didn't interject, but her gaze was steady, anchored in a century of wisdom. "Everything has a price, Marcus," Sarah said, her hand resting on the tattered yellow apron. "What's the cost of the world tour?" "A little time," Marcus smiled. "A little distance. We need to polish the image. The diner girl bit is a great hook, but we need to move it to a studio in LA. You can't record the soul of the world in a kitchen in the middle of nowhere." Sarah looked out the window. The sun was dipping behind the weaver's needle, casting a long, protective shadow over the diner. She remembered the feeling of the mountain's heartbeat in the canyons. She remembered the letter Alice had left, the warning about the shine, and the song. "The song didn't come from a studio in LA, Sarah said firmly. "It came from the red rock and the silence. If I leave the silence, I lose the song. I'm not for sale, Marcus, and neither is this diner." The executives left, their engines purring with a frustrated, predatory hum. They had found the one thing their money couldn't buy, a heart that already knew its value. Chapter 28. The Sanctuary. The diner didn't become a flagship for a franchise, nor a virtual museum. It became something far more profound, a living sanctuary. Maya and Sarah worked together to establish the Thorn Legacy Foundation. The profits from Sarah's music were funneled into preserving the local ecosystem and maintaining the silent trails. They bought the land behind the diner, the very land Arthur Sterling had once threatened to use to choke them out, and turned it into a permanent wildlife corridor. The pipeline Jacob had built continued to provide clear, cold water to the town, a constant reminder that the mountain's greatest treasure was life itself. Travelers continued to come, but they were different now. They didn't come to find gold or fame. They came to find themselves. They would sit in the booths, listen to Sarah play her guitar in the evenings, and feel the weight of the digital world slip from their shoulders. One evening, Sarah found Maya sitting on the back porch, her eyes closed, a peaceful smile on her face. The desert air was cool, carrying the scent of blooming saguaro. "We did it, Maya," Sarah whispered, sitting at her feet. "The walls are safe. The song is free. The mountains are satisfied," Maya said, her voice a soft rasp. "They've found a voice they can trust." "Sarah, I'm tired. I think it's time for me to find my own echo." "You aren't going anywhere," Sarah said, though her heart knew the truth. "I'm going where the light is." Maya smiled, her hand finding Sarah's. "I'm going to tell Mel and Alice that the girl in the yellow apron arrived just in time." Chapter 29. The Sunset of the Guardian. Maya Thorne passed away on a night when the moon was so bright it cast shadows like the sun. She died in her sleep, in the same armchair where Mel had sat, her face turned toward the peaks she had guarded for a lifetime. Her passing was not a tragedy, it was a transition. The cairn at the edge of the property grew even larger as the townspeople added stones in her honor. The silence of Thorne became a physical presence in the diner, a weight of history that felt like a warm blanket. Sarah took over the role of the guardian. She continued to flip burgers, to brew the fresh coffee, and to tune her guitar for the evening set. She wore the yellow apron every day, its faded fabric a constant connection to the women who had come before her. She became a mentor to the young hikers, teaching them not just how to navigate the trails, but how to navigate their own hearts. She told them the stories of the Dutchman, of Mel's father's greed, and of Alice's courage. She told them that the Arizona sun was a physical weight, but it was also a light that could reveal the truth if you let it. Chapter 30. The Eternal Song. The Superstition Mountains remain, as they always will. They breathe through the canyons, they watch through the crevices, and they remember. Mel's diner stands at their feet, a stubborn, beautiful anchor in an ever-changing world. The neon sign still flickers a steady, comforting heartbeat that can be seen for miles across the Sonoran. Inside, the coffee is still $3, and the soul is still free. Sarah stands on the stage, her guitar in her hand. She looks out at the faces in the booths, the weary, the searching, the hopeful. She begins to play. The notes carry out into the desert night, rising like wood smoke to the jagged ridges. The mountains catch the sound, amplifying it, echoing it, until the entire range seems to be singing. It is a song of gilded dust and eternal water. It is a song of choices made and legacies kept. It is a song that tells anyone who is lost that home is not a place you find, but a place you fight for. And as the desert wind whispers through the saguaros and the coyotes cry in the canyons, the echo remains clear, resonant, and eternal. The end. Echoes of the Gilded Dust, a novel of the Superstition Mountains. Prologue. The frequency of ghosts. The Superstition Mountains do not forgive, but they do remember. To the casual observer driving east from Phoenix, they appear as a jagged, purple bruise against the horizon, a fortress of volcanic rock and sun-scorched silence. But for those who live at their feet, the mountains are not merely scenery. They are a living, breathing entity with a pulse that hums at a frequency just below the range of human hearing. For nearly a century, that pulse had found its home in a humble structure of weathered wood and buzzing neon, Mel's Diner. It sat at the edge of the world, a lighthouse for the lost, where the scent of sourdough and sizzled beef mingled with the dry, ancient aroma of creosote and sage. This is the story of the Tingvang Kukatvang, the echo of the gilded dust. It is a story of a gold that couldn't be spent, a song that wouldn't be silenced, and a yellow apron that held the weight of 100 years of destiny. Chapter 1. The Silent Guardian. Maya Thorne stood on the back porch of the diner, her hands tucked into the pockets of a cardigan that had seen better decades. The air was turning that sudden, sharp cooling that happens in the Arizona desert the moment the sun slips behind the weaver's needle. She was 74 years old, though her eyes held the sharpness of a hawk. Her hair, once a deep chestnut like her grandfather Mel's, was now a shimmering silver, braided tightly against her head. She looked at the mountains, and for a moment she could swear she saw the shimmer of the gilded dust, not the gold of the prospector's fevered dreams, but the spiritual residue of every soul that had ever sought refuge in these canyons. In the years following Mel's passing, Maya had become the unintentional high priestess of a global movement. It had happened slowly, then all at once. In a digital age where every human experience was quantified by algorithms and likes, the world had grown soul-weary. People were starving for something they couldn't find on a screen: silence. Maya had refused to turn the diner into a museum. She had turned down offers from tech billionaires who wanted to build wellness retreats in the shadow of the peaks. Instead, she had maintained the sanctuary. "The silence isn't for sale, Mr. Sterling," she had told the late Arthur Sterling years ago. Now, his successor, a sharp-featured woman named Clara, was sitting at the counter inside. Maya could see her through the window. Clara wasn't holding a briefcase. She was holding a vintage Gibson guitar. It was a gesture of peace, or perhaps a white flag. Maya stepped back inside. The bell above the door chimed a sound that had remained unchanged since 1948. "The burgers are still flipping, Clara," Maya said, her voice like soft gravel. Clara looked up. She looked tired, the kind of exhaustion that comes from living in a world of glass and steel. "I didn't come for the land, Maya. I came because I heard the song. I was in London, in a boardroom on the 40th floor, and I felt a vibration in my teeth. I realized I was hearing the echo." Maya poured 2 cups of coffee, $3. The price hadn't changed in 20 years. The mountain doesn't care about boardrooms. It only cares if you're listening. "I am listening now," Clara whispered.